Good afternoon. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure for me to be here. First of all, I want to thank VentureConnect. We at the United Nations Development Program have been treated first class by everybody associated with VentureConnect. I really enjoyed the pitches this morning, although it made me feel incredibly old. I'm probably the oldest person up here by 15 years, and I still even need a piece of paper because I was like, wow, everybody's doing that from memory. That's great. So why is UNDP here, the United Nations Development Program? I'm sorry, I'm having real troubles with this. Is there something I'm missing here? Is it this way? Can someone help me out here? Oh, okay. Let me go back. Oh. Can I go backwards on this? Okay. I'll go here. Anyway, why is UNDP here? We are a United Nations agency. We normally do development work. The UNDP office in Romania is actually downsizing because Romania is now a member of the European Union. But we're here because we have a program called the Black Sea Trade and Investment Program, which our job is to help promote trade and investment in the Black Sea region. Thank you. Wrong buttons. Technology challenged. And anyway, one of the key sectors we work in the Black Sea region is IT. And so we're trying to, let's say, have people in Romania invest in Bulgaria, people in Bulgaria invest in Greece, people in Greece invest in Turkey, rather than always compete for, let's say, Western European or American funds. So something like VentureConnect, which is homegrown here in Romania, but international, is the type of thing that we really like to support. So I've been asked to talk about the entrepreneurial ecosystem in Eastern Europe. And if I had to describe it in one word, it's okay. It's not great, it's not horrible. I read in some business magazines, the very dynamic Eastern European economic ecosystem where things are growing. And then I'll come here and say, it's horrible, there's no money, there's no early stage capital. It's probably somewhere in between. It's not great, it's not horrible, it's okay. But the IT industry here in Romania is particularly interesting for me. I used to live in Romania, and I moved my family here. My son was 4 years old, and he was a little nervous. He didn't know what Romania was. And before we moved into our flat, we stayed in a hotel downtown, and there was a McDonald's. And he saw the golden arches of McDonald's, and he knew Romania was a civilized place as a 4-year-old. Now for me, when I moved here, I went to my first IT expo over at the convention center, the Rome Expo. And I walked in, and I saw tall, really skinny guys with flash drives around their neck drinking Red Bull. And right then and there, I knew Romania was a very civilized place, and I could live here. Talking about ecosystems, there are many different models. That's the traditional model where you have innovation, so you've got the government, you've got the universities, they've got the businesses, they all feed each other, and then entrepreneurs and investors go in, and then it spins off technology. I don't know if that's true. There's the community-based model, where we have a great place to live, really smart people, people who have money. They go and they mix and they come out through a funnel, and then good ideas come out. And that's the community-based model. I don't think there's one model of an entrepreneurial ecosystem. I don't know if there's a flow, but I think these are the key elements. This is a classic Babson College University model of what's in an entrepreneur ecosystem. And they've made a chart, but it's really a list. You need good policy, a good environment, you need markets to sell into, you need money, you need people who are going to be good entrepreneurs, and to support those entrepreneurs, you need an environment of support, and you need a culture that understands entrepreneurship. In our Eastern European region, looking at the domain of an entrepreneurial ecosystem, how are things here? I'm not talking Romania specifically, the region. Policy, it's okay. Business environments keep getting better, and so I think that's a good thing. Nothing is perfect. It's not like being in the States or perhaps Northern Europe or Australia, but things are okay. Markets, more people are using IT locally. Many of the markets are actually growing, so it's okay, but it's getting better. Supports. Actually, I think support here is pretty good. And you say, well, what do you mean? Well, let's take the US, for example. You borrow the money from your parents, you borrow the money from the bank, or you convince investors. No EU money, no EBRD, no UNDP, any of that. Now, I'm not saying to you as an individual entrepreneur that you're eligible or want all that money, but there are various programs for support here that may or may not be relevant. Finance. Finance is not so great. One of the reasons why we're here is there's not a lot of early stage capital. Culture, we don't have a lot of entrepreneurial culture. We have a lot of formally, centrally planned state economies, but it's improving. Where we are right here is an example of that. And human capital here is really good, but I wouldn't say it up and down. The good news is that we have really smart people, and we have wages that are reasonable, but we also have a lot of people leaving, and the crisis is hurting some of the universities, particularly where I live in Greece. I live in Greece, and the universities are really the funds are being slashed incredibly. So what are some of the issues in our region? We've talked about lack of early stage capital, control versus exit strategy. And what I mean by that is, I meet entrepreneurs here in the region, and when they think about exit strategy, they say, well, an investor will give me money, and then I'll decide how I'm going to exit, and then I'll give him back his money. And I was like, it doesn't quite work that way. If you take money from an investor, that investor has a say in what you do. And so one of the things that in the region I note is people are entrepreneurs, but they're the hero model. I'm going to do this, give me the money, and I will succeed for you. Some of that is not here in this particular room, but that's a perception in the region. Another thing that I encounter companies is some people have some great ideas, but they do software development to help make ends meet. So I really have a great game, I really have a great new business process, but I also do Microsoft and SAP implementations because I need to make payroll. And sometimes other engineers, the best engineers, get sidetracked onto the Microsoft or the SAP implementations. So one of the things that's really important is that if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you have to dedicate the best resources to the project, the thing that you're trying to sell. Understanding debt versus equity. Some people are unfamiliar with the concept of equity. I think everybody here gets it. I don't meet a lot of people who can sell. They can do the PowerPoint presentation, but then when they meet with the client or the investor and say, here's why you should invest, here's the customer we're trying to touch, here's where you will get your payback, that's the hard part to sell. And then the other regional issue is deal size. Not so much in an angel, particularly in a European angel context, but people have dreams of money from Silicon Valley or APAC from London or whoever. The issue is if you want 150,000 euros and they're going to make even 50 or 60% on that, 100%, the cost of that transaction is more than they may actually get back. They're looking for something bigger. So some people here in the region, they don't get it. Everybody in this room, I think, gets it. But when outsiders come in and look in the region, they're not often thinking about you. They're thinking about other people in the region. Looking at the region as a whole, we have what I call the middle class. Romania, Bulgaria, Greece, they have companies with some scale, produce a good number of engineers every year, people who understand software development, some scalability in the economies. I call Russia and Ukraine the big waves. A lot of money to be made, but very rocky. The boutiques, Czech, Hungary, Croatia, Serbia, a lot of very smart people there. Individual successes, Avast and AVG. And then Poland and Turkey are two guys to watch out for. One, they have big domestic markets. Two, their stock markets and their financial markets are improving, so there are places to exit. They have large universities, and their business environments are also improving rapidly. I wanted to mention briefly that there is money out there. Now, I'm not going to go through all these financial resources. And as an entrepreneur, not all those resources are relevant to you. But just like you need to do your due diligence on your roadshow presentation for your entrepreneurs, you also need to know where all the money is and which one of those sources of money may be relevant to what you're doing at what stage your company's at. Whether it be crowdfunding, the EU has a program called FP7, which is financially based. There's a Black Sea bank based in Thessaloniki that only lends money to the 12 Black Sea countries, and they take equity investments too. So it's understanding all the financial resources that are available to you. So in conclusion, you think about getting ahead in this marketplace. It's nice to think about Silicon Valley, and Nils mentioned this. But if you think about models, think about Berlin, Prague, Tel Aviv. Good VC markets, similar-sized companies, places where you have smart people interacting, and there are things that we can borrow there in Bucharest, Sofia, wherever. As Nils mentioned this morning, M&A is still a really decent exit strategy. People think about, going public or huge organic growth. Somebody's willing to buy your company, and you get enough, you're a serial entrepreneur to sell to start your next company. Hey, that's pretty good. Disruption is also great. Everybody wants to have a disruptive technology, but not everybody is a Facebook or an Amazon. Market differentiation is also good. Tumblr's a classic example. Plenty of blogging software, but Tumblr's a little bit different. They just sold for a huge amount of money. Knowing your customer is hugely important. What happens is everyone has an idea for a game. Everyone has an idea for a process. Who am I giving pleasure to? Whose pain am I relieving? Why will they pay this money for my product? Who's going to be my customer? Very, very important to figure out. Just saying people who like games is not enough, or people who are in the accounting business is not enough. It's figuring out who is actually going to buy this product, monetize this product, employ this product, etc. Having the right pitch for the right audience is important. Nils mentioned this. So if you have different audiences, bankers, investors, venture capitalists, come up with a different pitch. The numbers and all of that are the same, but the tone is different for different potential business partners. And then finally, understand the payout and the deal size as well as the costs. What happens, someone says, well, I need 400,000 euros because I need this much for marketing, I need this much for technical support, I need this much for hardware. Well, how does that translate to the investor in terms of how much he or she will make? Because you may need that much money for your costs, but you have to think about what the investor will get on his or her return. And that's really critical for you to get that money. You can't just think about your own costs. You have to think about how much money the person who is going to invest in you will make. Thank you very much.
right here. You have been here for some time. What's your assessment of the fact that Romania has a lot of service centers, call centers? Is it a good thing or a bad thing for the software industry, for the entrepreneurship, for the having entrepreneurs launching their own companies? Is it a good thing or a bad thing? Thank you.
I think it's a very good thing for two reasons. One, we just talked about ecosystem. It builds the ecosystem. So there are places where people can go and you can get engineers. If we didn't have these service centers, these software development firms, where would the entrepreneurs get engineers from, particularly experienced engineers? So I think that's very important. And then second, entrepreneurs need to understand business processes, need to understand client relations, need to understand business. Where do they get that training? In many of these software development companies. So what often happens is you may build a very generic piece of software for a client as part of a software development firm or an outsourcing center, but then you learn about the company's processes and then you come up with an idea for an original product or service.